Now, Rahu is there. Rahu is called an Agantu. And Rahu comes, Savai Shanmasya Parvani Yugapadupashtati. Every 6 months he comes and sits in the Parva. That Parva you may think of as a node. He comes and sits there, he says, but doesn't mean it has to happen the eclipse. Krishna Paksha is a very strong, it is Asura Paksha. Daiva Pakshas are beautiful, but mild and weak. Asura Pakshas, Dakshinayana, Krishna Paksha, night, they are all Asura. Asura is not demons. Demons may also be strong, but this is, they are the strong Pakshas, they are very important. Prajapati stayed with Rohini fixed. So whatever work you do in Rohini Nakshatra will be fixed. When was Prajapati fixed in the Rohini? From 500 years back, because Rohini Nakshatram is a very important thing in the calendar. This is the calendar which was there. And he says, Sarve Chesham Nakshatranam Karmasu Kritikaha. For work, it is Kritika is first. Rohini Sarva Nakshatrana. For all stars, Rohini is the first star. So next is Prithvi. Here there is geography. Geography essentially, a little bit of geography of India, so to say. Samudraha, what he created, Pradakshinam, Samstaktodan, Chaturtham, Valuka Samudra, desert. Then Ambasa Vivarjitam, Ekottaram Nadi Sahasram, 1001 Nadis. There, Ashoshyanam, Punyanam, Kalmasha Nashaninam, you can easily understand, even though it is very ancient Sanskrit, particularly in Kannada, use the same words. Tasam Saraswati Shreshtatama. So Saraswati Shreshtatama is already there in this. So it is, many people ask, in ancient text, Rigveda, of course, there is Saraswati, but in some other texts, Saraswati is not mentioned, only Ganga. This knows Ganga also. Adding Ganga also, it says there are 7 rivers. The 5 which are the Panchanadyaha, 6 is Saraswati, Ganga, the Saptada. It gives that thing also later on. It also says something about the Himavantam and the other mountains, which people have identified in various ways later, and I will not go into those details. He mentions Avaranartham Agnigirayaha. There are actually kind of volcanoes as protecting as a circle, he says. Then there are so many things in between. Then Meru came up in the north of this. This Meru concept becomes very important to understand what happened in the astronomy. And he also gives 4 dvipas only. Purvatah Pragjyotisha, Dakshinitah Jambudvipa, Paschimataha Ketumala, Uttara Kuravaha Uttartha. There are only 4 dvipas as per this. I am showing this because Mahabharata also accepts 4. It also says 7. Later Puranas also give more number of dvipas and all that. So this is the development, this is the minimum. But this 4 dvipa comes from the Aitareya Brahmana. If there is time, I will show where they accept only 2 dvipas. That side and this side, he says. Whereas here there is a 4 because of sun. That comes out very interestingly. And he also says the numbers which are given are in the text progressing. The 40th thing. Tiryagurdvam Vayava Devahi Urdvam Prithvi Tiryak Tavadeva Mantariksham. Tiryagurdvam means horizontal and vertical. It is an obliquity. Doesn't yet say clearly that Earth is separate, Bhumi is separate, Prithvi is separate. It doesn't say that. Because Prithvi accepted as the lower shell. It should be something like a boat. But there are mountains. So in the center, there are ups and downs. So there is something which is going up. And it seems Tiryagurdvam, it is turned like this. So they have observed this carefully for a very long time based on the seasonal changes, the shadows changing from one side to the other side and all that. Sun rising somewhere in the north, somewhere in the south. He mentions that later on. So they thought that it should be inclined. So that obliquity is there already. So Kala Vibhaga Siddhyartham सर्वांश चतुरो द्वीपान भावयतः सोमार्कौ अस्तमयतः उदयतो वा मेरुणा tu channau na prakashete. So a great statement. It's an astronomical statement. To determine the time, to tell time to people on Prithvi, there are four things which are there, four dvipas. Soma and Arka, that is moon and sun, they rise and set to indicate time to these people. Now, what is Ratri? Ratri is because of the shadow from the Meru, it falls on the Dvipa, any Dvipa, the four Dvipas, that is Ratri for them. So it is a theoretical proposition of slowly going towards the spherical nature. And almost the spherical nature is there. Sarvesham Dvipanam Uttarena Meruhu Dhruvan Jyotiha Achalam Meroho Murdi Pratishtita. This is a Vedic concept which goes to the Taitiriya Aranyaka and the Shishumara and the Dhruva which is there as the pole star fixed 2850 BC. And Dhruva Darshana, all that even to this day the marriages are done because of the Dhruva which was fixed. Today there is a different Dhruva, that is a separate matter. I have talked about this in Mythic Society, I will not touch on that, but that is key for Indian astronomy, for development of astronomy or even Siddhantic astronomy. It says that Teshancha yatra udayate arko sa tesham purvadik. Wherever it rises, that is the east for that particular dvipa. Udayastamana madhyana ratraha samvibhajate sarva prithvi. Rise, afternoon, evening, midnight. These are the four things of sun which divides Prithvi into four parts. It is exactly same thing which the Gola, the Bhuvana, Pushkara and others have picked up. The four cities are there at 90-degree interval. They call it Romakar, Yavanar, whatever may be the name. So when the sun rises in one city in the Yavakoti, there is going to be afternoon in Jambudvipa in Lanka, and there is going to be evening in Yavanadvipa, and then Uttarukuru it is going to be night, something of this kind. Now, this is from Aitareya Brahmana. I will not read it because in the Aitareya Brahmana it says sun never rises and sets. When they say that it has set, on this side people are not seeing. That is the Ratri for them. When it says on the other side, Ratri meva avastat kurute ahaha parastat. The other side. If you can imagine the Meru theory of this, you will get the answer. If you simply take it, you can keep on arguing. I don't know what the meaning for this. And as some people would say, Brahmana texts are all twaddle of priests. Max Muller and Keith and others have said like that. It is not. They have not understood. As Yaska clearly says in his Nirukta, if a blind person hits his head against the pillar, is it the fault of the person or of the pillar? You decide. So the situation is something like that when you go to the ancient text. Well, anyway, he discusses the directions with reference to sun, the ayanas, the Uttarayana and the Dakshinayana. In the initial things, it doesn't say any stars. If it goes to the southernmost end of the rise, that is the Parakashta. Similarly, at the northernmost end. The north, he would say, going up. Because if you see, this is a visible observational feature. Even in Bangalore, in the December sunrise, if you see, it seems to rise low. If you see somewhere 6 months later, it seems to be rising a little bit up. That is because of this inclination and all that. But this up and low is not this up and this low. There has been a difficulty in understanding these texts because this Uttara, Udgamana, Ut also means Uttara to the north as well as up. So the upward direction was initially astronomically what today we call the northern direction. In fact, even the declination positions are all given like that. Now then, the moon is this more important thing. In the Vaidika text also, moon they have observed. In the Krishna Paksha, it is the soma-pana. Now people are asking what is Soma, what is meant by Soma-pana. Even the villagers do a drama of Indra drinking Soma and all that. So what is this? Soma-pana, Vedas are very clear. It is the decrease of phases of moon in the Krishna Paksha. The Brahmanda Purana becomes still more clear. It says in the Krishna Paksha, each day one kala is drunk by the devas, kind of thing. Now, being esoteric, the cosmic principle, the cosmic forces which are there, they are called the devatas. Now, devata, today we think it is something which I will do here, I will do puja and naivedya and all that. The ancient time, devata is a natural force. Devi bhavaha devaha, devanam bhavaha devata, daivatyam. They are the words which are used even here in the Mahasalilam. Now, here the Mahasalilam looks at moon and he says the Soma-pana is done in 3 stages, on the Panchami and the Dashami and the Panchadashi. Now, these are not tithis. It is the 5th day, 10th night and the 15th. Initially, this was the kind of argument which was there. 5 nights, they were called, even Brihad Samhita, towards the last chapter, he says, Nanda, Bhadra, there is something, the 5. And by repetition, 3 times that becomes 15 or so is what he has given. The original counting was like that. And that is what is given. Tasya etah panchakalaha panchamishu upapiyante. Why 5? You can see the diagram which I have shown there. The decrease in slope, Paurnima is at the left hand top, 100%. Paurnima next Prathipat, the difference you cannot make out. The decrease in light is very small. Then up to the 5th, it is only about 20% decreases. But from the 5th day to the 11th day, nearly 60% of the light decreases. It's a very sharp decrease. Then again it becomes slow. This is what they had observed, and they put them into 3 kinds. And here there is Amavasya and Sannaya. This Sannaya became the more difficult word, because initially I did not understand when I was editing the initial chapters. Sannaya, when I looked into the dictionaries and asked the Vaidikas, they all said it is a Purva Mimamsa word. You have to study Purva Mimamsa, you should know about the Yajna, Yaga and all of that. Okay, looked into some books and wanted to see what it is. It is given as a mixture of milk and curd, which has to be offered on the Darsha day, that is on the Amavasya day, in the Darsha Purnamasa. So all the Kalpa Sutras, Shrauta Sutras discuss this only. Purva Mimamsa texts also give this only. Whereas this text says something different. That is the Adi Yajna meaning. You mix curd and milk, like moon and sun get mixed up after the Amavasya. And this is more sophisticated. Between Amavasya and Darsha, the Sannaya happens. That is, it is taken to that point. It's an exact coincidence. That is something like a syzygy. These descriptions, being very early, today we may say, okay, I extrapolate or I interpolate. Between minus and plus, there has to be a 0. They don't say like that. So between Amavasya and Darsha, there is a Sannaya. And you make the meaning yourself out of it. And the Vaidikas may be remembering it. It is very good. The rituals are all actions of what happened on the sky. And they are all remembered. And if you can sift them out, sitting with the Shrautis of today, some of this will come out. We had a conference of that kind also in Bangalore 2 years back. I will not go into that. Then they would also be happy. We are also happy because we get some new information, which is astronomical. But people have forgotten today. They do it only as a ritual. This is from Shadvimsha Brahmana. It's a Vedic Brahmana. There also it is there. Ataisha Chandramasaha Kshaya Vriddhir Bhavati Chandrama Kshiyate Tadanu Vyakya Syamaha Purva Pakshevai, etc. Prathamam Panchakalam Panchami Bhakshayanti. The same thing, the same concept. And that is how observational astronomy has developed in this country. Today, I may say, okay, my colleagues have sent me some photographs of moon from a very sophisticated camera and all that. I like them. But in the ancient time, this is how it was. And Mukhametat Prajapatehe yad Darsha Purnamasam. This is almost a Vedic word because there is a Chaturmukha, we said, the two faces are Darsha and Purnamasa. The other two faces are going to be Sandhya, is what says. Sandhya, you see moon, Ashtami moon, either in the Pratas Sandhya or in the Sayam Sandhya, in the Krishna Paksha and in the Shukla Paksha. Once turns, always turn towards moon. These are the four faces. You Chaturmukha Brahma, Chaturmukha Prajapati. Chandra himself has Prajapati because it is a mono-acting which happens here. Because everything is self-similar. It is Brahma, it is Prajapati, it is Vishnu, which is also blah blah, all of this. So you can interchange all of this and get the same answer. Now, Graha and planets. See, the order is given. Vedoktanam Grahanam Ashtashatam Sankhyayate. Vedokta Grahas are 108 in number as per Mahasalilam. Tatra Ekashatam Ketunam Patti, there are 101 comets. Some of them may be meteorites, I don't know, but 101 are Ketus. Even today, in the Rigvediya Navagraha Dhyana Shloka, Ketun Pranamamyaham Ketun Avahayami is used in Bahuvachana. Why? If it is only a single Ketu, why were they doing Ketun? Please ask the Pandits why it is multiple, why it is plural number, because they were comets as per this. Now, Somarko Pancha Tara Graha. Somarka are different. Then there are Tara Graha, Pancha Tara Graha. What is called in English planets? They have to be called Tara Graha. That would be the correct translation or the correct correspondence. Because Soma and Arka, they are also Graha, but they are not Tara Graha. That's what it says. Now, Tasmat Ashtashatam Sankhyaayate. The Ketus are also Grahas. Nigrahartancha Graha Prajanan Daivehu. Okay. Controlling and all astrology is brought in there. Shukrastvesham Pratamam. Shukra is the first. That order is very important because it is per brightness, it is ordered. He has Shodasha Shukla Varna Rashmaya. Then Shukra has 16, Brahaspati has 12, Angaraka has 9, Shani has 5, Buddha has 7 Rashmi. And we know that Surya has 1000. It's mentioned somewhere. And Shatarchi is Chandra. There is something which is not very clear. It says Dvigunam Somasya. I don't know what it means. But if I order all this, that matches with the modern magnitudes. It's the correlation which I have shown, plotted the magnitudes on x-axis and logarithm of the Rashmi numbers on the y-axis. It is not to claim that they knew the magnitudes or whatever. No, certainly not. But these are observational. If there is a real observation, you have to come to the same result. So this is ordering them as per their brightness. So Shukra is the first one. Now, Rahu is there. Rahu is called an Agantu. And Rahu comes Savai Shanmasya Parvani Yugapadupashtati. Every 6 months he comes and sits in the Parva. That Parva you may think of as a node. He comes and sits there, he says, but doesn't mean it has to happen the eclipse. But he sits there and suddenly as an Agantu, an eclipse happens. So this is a 6th period, what is called a semester cycle is mentioned here. And this is possible only if you have done a lot of observation. Then you see that the 6 monthly period is the most prominent sequence which is happening. And later on in the Vridagargya Jyotish, I said in the earlier Angas, Rahu Charita, which has 7 chapters, a very long one, not yet edited. He discusses this and he says the 6 monthly eclipse will last for 7 sequences, that is 3.5 years. That is correct. Even from modern analysis, that repetition will be valid as a predictor only for 7 occurrences, not beyond that. Now, anyway, I have discussed these things in detail. I will not go into that. Then about comets. This is one of the beautiful things. The question was that Kativa Parisankhyaayante. What is their Varna Sankyanam? Shikha Parimanam. He gives the various details. There is a theory for comets and gives the difference of opinion between Garga and Baguri. Garga says how comets are there near sun in the southwest direction, whereas Baguri says towards the end, Baguri Stvaha, Netam ete picham merum paryagachanti, Surya Rashmin Vahamana, Surya Muktaha Drishyante. They carry the Surya Rashmis, they reflect the Surya Rashmis, and it seems as though sun is carrying them. Later on, Vridagarga in the Ketumala, which we have published, says the tile is always opposite sun. It is against the sun, the tile is coming, which is correct. And in the Ketumala, I have quoted there, so important, which has been forgotten by us. Sarvecha Brahmana loke dharayanti jitendriyaha vedartaniva yatnena prasanna manasodayaha. People should, like Vedartha, remember these comets, the 101 names of comets, like every day it has to be repeated. In that Ketumala chapter it is given, like we say Ashtotar Shatar, Sahasranama kind of thing. Not only that, Bhavishyanti yada sarve yadiva dharma buddhayaha. If there are dharma buddhi people, what will they do? Ketu Darshana Durgani Karishyanti Sarvashaha. They will create observatories for observing comets all over. Some of our kings have done observatories. That is how they were able to know even about comets and others. But are we doing that? Have we continued this culture as the great Vedic culture? We have not. Now, Dhruva and Meru is there. I will not go into that. It gives at what distance from Dhruva the various planets are there in yojanas. Even though it is very difficult to understand it, this Dhruva and Dhruvaka, measuring from the pole star or the pole, is the one which is carried on to the Siddhantic astronomy, because they give the polar longitudes and also the coordinates, the latitudes also with reference to the pole, even though there was no pole star during the Siddhantic period. How they did that and all that is a different matter, because there is already a 4,000 years of astronomical development. I can't cover all of this here. But one thing is very important. People think, Indians thought, moon is above sun. It's something which is common here. Maybe in the tantras and in the esoteric principles, maybe it is like that. It is true. It is there. But that is in the Kundalini Yoga. That is in the Chidakasha. In the Bahyakasha, what is there? Brahmanda Purana is very clear, because Puranas are criticized for this. You can see, Dakshinayana Margasto Yada Chariti Rashmiman. When sun is going towards the south, Tada Sarva Grahanancha Suryo Adastat Prasarpati. Then sun is going to be the lowest of all the other celestial objects, which is true, because he has gone to the southernmost declination, which looks for a human being, maybe in Kurukshetra standing and seeing, it is the lowermost point. Whereas the others, even Vistirnam Mandalam Kritva Tasyordvam Charate Shashi. Above that is going to be Shashi, is what he says. So you have to see in terms of either the azimuthal things, or in terms of the ancient things would be altitude and azimuth, or in terms of declinations, you will get the right answer. But of course, I will not go into the details of this here. Now, star dimensions are also asked, and whether stars are fixed or not, and whether people go to the stars, Sukritinam Lokaha. That Vedic concept that rishis are staying in the nakshatras, and the nakshatras people, after their punya, they come down. So punarjanma. These concepts are there. It is covered. I will not go into the details. Atmospheric phenomenon is there. Actually, 74 to 85, about 10 paragraphs. It becomes a whole course, so I will not go into it. There's a theory of rainfall. And the rainfall by heat, how it goes up. It is not just by yagas. Yaga, it is there. By burning of wood and other things, it happens, it says. It also says, Vana Samarthatvat, because of the forest. Because of the mass of the forest, there is going to be evaporation, and this goes up, and it gets condensed, and then it comes down. All those details are there in a very beautiful way. And he says sun draws up like water goes up in a Padmanala, Kamalanala. Kamalanala is a lotus stack. Now, lotus stack was used in the ancient time for sucking or to show action that water can rise, how it goes up, it is a hollow tube only, but it goes up. So the sun will attract water like that and all that. This is based on the nakshatra astrology. This is not the horoscopic astrology. And this famous love story between Chandra and Rohini gives a totally different interpretation for it. It is there. It also says, yes, Soma was with Rohini, and then her sisters got angry and all of that. The story is preserved. But what is the meaning of that? It says that further. Briefly, it is like this. Chandramasam Uvacha Bhagavan Prajapati. When Prajapati calls Chandra, there is a complaint by other stars, nakshatras. What are you doing? Tasmatvam Raja Yakshma Grahaha Grahishyati. Chandra says, no, I am moving equally with all of them. I consider all of them equally only. But he says, no, you are telling a lie. So I curse you with Raja Yakshma Graha. Raja Yakshma is consumption. Now, please note, Puranas think this Raja Yakshma is the Krishna Paksha. That means phases decreasing. What has Rohini to do with that? And Vedas do not talk about Krishna Paksha. Krishna Paksha is soma-pana. Very, very important. So Krishna Paksha cannot be decried as Raja Yakshma or tuberculosis or whatever. So very important Krishna Paksha. Krishna Paksha is a very strong, it is Asura Paksha. Daiva Pakshas are beautiful but mild and weak. Asura Pakshas, Dakshinayana, Krishna Paksha, night, they are all Asura. Asura is not demons. Demons may also be strong, but this is, they are the strong Pakshas, they are very important. Now, coming again, Somaha Raja Yakshmana Grihitaha. Soma was caught by Raja Yakshma. And in the Dashapurnamasa, that Sannaya Avahan has to be given to remove Raja Yakshma. That is what the sutras say. That is another matter. Somaha Nirasravat Parabhavacha. It's the same word which is there in Maitrayani Samhita and other things. Then what happened? Prajapatim Abhyava Gachan. Tanicha Rikshani Nakshatram. Then Soma understood. Now Soma and Chandra I will come again because it is a mono-acting. Prajapati, Soma, Chandra are all same. It is like a mono-acting. They take three roles and play. That is how we have to handle it. Prajapati Abhyavagachan. He understood Prajapati. What? Ithordam henceforth. Tanicha Rikshani Nakshatram. Tanicha Rikshani. Which Rikshani? The Rohini. They become Nakshatram. Because Rohini was a single star. Jyotishmati, Rohini and all that comes in single number. In Vedas, Rohini Nakshatra is always in singular number. Whereas Magha is in plural, Vishakha is in Dvivachana, Shravishta is in plural. Rohini is always in Ekavachana. Till Mahasalilam came into picture. Later on, Rohini is a Shakata with 5 stars. Vruddhagarga, Parashara and all later people use 5. So, the single nakshatra became an asterism. So, you have to imagine that there were single nakshatras which were there, unequal maybe, 27 and 28, including Abhijit. For what purpose Prajapati was combining with Rohini? I have discussed it in greater detail in the text. So, I can't go into that because time is up. Briefly, it is this. Before this period, in the Kataka Samhita, this is discussed. When Rohini is rising, that is Prajapati Rupa. And that is when some new things have to be done. The new thing, if you see, it is Annaprashana. For a newly born, that is after a few days, the first feeding has to be done when Rohini rises in the east. Because that is the Rupa of Prajapati. I have quoted that. If you are interested, you can go through the details. When would that be possible? That would be possible in the spring season, somewhere around 2500 BC to 3000 BC or so. So Rohini was a very important star for deciding Samvatsara Prajapati. He is the mantra in the Yajurveda and all that. Samvatsara itself is Prajapati. Prajapati himself is Samvatsara. How do you decide Samvatsara? Prajapati is with Rohini. When Rohini rises, that is the Rupa of Prajapati is what is said in that. So, because these are remembered in a sutra form, mnemonics, just like that, you combine them, you don't get a meaning. You separate them with some punctuation, you will get the meaning correctly for this. Now, he says he understood what is meant by Chandra Soma understanding. Henceforth, the astronomers, the Nakshatra Darshas decided that there will be 27 stars as the equal thing, and they are going to have their astronomy equally along that, and also observe both moon and sun to develop a calendar, to develop a better calendar. That is also there. Well, anyway, astrology is developed like that, where moon and sun have to combine. So moon and nakshatras are combining. There is a Vikarana Dharma, it is said. And there is a theory which is developed, which is very peculiar. It is the Agni Soma concept. Soma is time. Well, let us take it as simply time, primal time. There is something which cannot go behind that, at least intellectually. And that Soma is a male principle. Agni is the female principle. That is represented for human beings in terms of the nakshatras. So nakshatras are all strilinga. That is what it says. Grammatically, they may be in pullinga. Pushya iti pullinga. It says, yatha pushya iti pullinga nakshatra na pumsakalingam sarvani etani nakshatrani striyaha eva. They are all striyaha. So if they combine with that, the particular thing, then a particular actions will take place. That action is actually a precursor of past actions like Kritika, Agni kind of actions will have to be done. Because he says, Prajapati says, once upon a time Soma combined with Kritika in the form of Agni. That comes up in so many places, even in the Rig Veda, in the Saptasvasara that comes. The 7 sisters, Agni remained with them and all of that. Maybe that was a supernova, or maybe some other blaze, or maybe it was a comet, maybe the birth of Skanda in the Kartika. That is also possible. So it was the Agni which was there long time back. That is the Vikarana. That is an anomaly. Each anomaly of that kind is a Devata. It gives one more example. Prajapati stayed with Rohini fixed. So whatever work you do in Rohini Nakshatra will be fixed. When was Prajapati fixed in the Rohini? From 500 years back, because Rohini Nakshatram is a very important thing in the calendar. This is the calendar which was there. And he says, Sarve Chesham Nakshatranam Karmasu Kritikaha. For work, it is Kritika is first. Rohini Sarva Nakshatranam. For all stars, Rohini is the first star. Rohini in singular number is said like this. Mahasalilam, Saumyanam, Ayana Nakshatrana. If you want to find out the lateral Ayana Nakshatra, that is movement of sun and moon laterally, Mahasalilam and also Saumyana. Saumyana means for moon also. Sarva Sancha Shadashitanam Adihi Shravishta. For all these 86 stars, Shravishta is the beginning. It goes like this. What is the first one and all that? And Taranan Dhruvaha. The first star. Nakshatras are different, Taras are different. Nakshatra, Taraha are different. They are the stars which are in the Nakshatra. That also Mahasalilam handles it like that. Now, there is some confusion on this. Very important for history of astronomy. That is why I produced. Because the Somakar Bhashya on Yajusha Jyotisha was edited by Sudhakar Dwivedi. That is his edition. This has been commented upon by Pingree and others, telling that this Garga is actually only in the 500 BC, because there is no reference to anything else in this, to an ancient time. That is not true, because they have not seen the Vridagargiya manuscripts. They have not edited the Mahasalila manuscript. Mahasalila, they simply say rainfall, rainfall, rainfall. They have not edited this. Our manuscript clearly says Magha Sauryanam Ayana Nakshatranam. Saumyanancha Ayana Nakshatranam. This is the manuscript of the Somakara Bhashya here. If you do all of this, and it also gives there are 366 days in a year, and it gives the Dasha Surya Ayanani Chatustrimshat Shata Chandrayana Shatam Bhavati. For 10 lateral movements of sun, Ayana is from one end to the other end. Southernmost end to the northernmost end is one Ayana. For 10 such ayanas, there are 134 Chandras ayanas. That is 67 sidereal cycles in 5 years. And this is what has been borrowed by Lagada to develop his further calendars. And this can be shown, the details are here. This is the Maghadi epoch. So the time of what this Magha says in this 102 is this. There is another Magha Adi epoch in the Vedas, that is the Maitrayani Aranyaka. Magadhyam Shravishthardam Agneyam Kramena Utkramena. The Dakshinayana started with Magha Nakshatram up to the half of Shravishta in the Maitrayani Aranyaka. This matches with the Puranic statement. The equinoxes were at 1/4 Kritika and 3/4 Vishaka. That is what has been shown here. And this is the zodiac of the Maghadi epoch, 1800 to 1600 BC. The analysis is available, how the full moon thing can be analyzed. We have published this, it's also available in the book. We can decide the Puranic statements of the equinox was valid for this. It was the same period when Maghadi was day 1, first day of the Varsha Rutu. Maybe approximate, but this is the theoretical picture. Half of Shravishta is the 183rd day. 177th sunrise, Ahargana. If you do Ahargana from this point in a particular year, or you can do Ahargana even with a 5-year thing, because Pancha Samvatsara it is mentioned, starting with Magha, you get a reasonable answer, and you can see, match it with moon's position, because 134 is given as the one in between 67. You can get an approximate position of where moon is also, even in the morning. Because the question was, morning, where is moon? Which nakshatra he is occupying? Because it says, morning nothing is visible. And this, in fact, Vardagarga develops in his Chandrachara, says that, Nahi sarvatra ganitam, nahi sarvatra darshanam. Darshanam ganitam cheva yugapad yoga sadhana. You can't use everywhere observation. You should not use everywhere ganita. Combine both, you will get the right answer, is what he advises. And what Ganita is mostly Trairashi, it is an extrapolation. Now, the concluding remarks, I will not read it. Text invokes the Vedas and calls itself Jyotishanga. That is, in effect, making Mahasalilam the extent Vedanga Jyotisha. The Mahasalilam will prove to be of great interest not only to historians of Indian astronomy, but also the Vedic scholars and those searching for the Vedic roots of Indian astrology or the Vedic astrology. The conclusion cannot be anything better than the last sentence of the text itself, because he concludes, Ityeta Jyotishanga Mahata Salila Arnavadi Praja Sambhavnat. This is the Jyotishanga starting from Mahasalila, from that time up to Praja Sambhavnat, up to the creation of life on earth. And that is Mahasalila. Ataha asya shastrasya mahat salilam. That is why this is Mahat Salilam, such a vast ocean. Etati punyam yashasyam ayusham kalmashanashanam sarva samshayanam vyakaranam. All doubts you can clear if you follow this. Vyakarana means an analysis of doubts. Na putraya pradayam, it is so holy, give it only to known people. Etad vijnana paramam. This is the science par excellence. And it says it is the Mahasaladhyaya. Thank you. Sorry for taking more time.
Sorry. So you mentioned in the beginning name Vishwamitra.
When it began.
Vishwamitra.
Vishwamitra.
Yeah, is that the Vedic Rishi Vishwamitra or is that someone else?
Is he Vedic Rishi or someone else?
I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Because the name of Vishwamitra comes only here, only once, the whole text.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it is the Vedic Vishwamitra or the Rigvedic Vishwamitra or whatever. But from the way it is put up, seems to be one of his progeny could be. Because the whole thing is repeated by a third party. The language as it is not directly Vridigarga and Vishwamitra, but a third party is telling a story. Like I say that myself and else discuss this problem to some other person. Then there is some direct speech, then there is some indirect speech. Well, can't say from this.
Yes. Since you chose to disagree with the big name David Pingree, I merely want to confirm for all the doubters in the audience that your assessment of David Pingree as very opinionated is very much confirmed by all the other things he has said. So he's one of those who said that the Indians were incapable of anything original, that they all borrowed it from the Greeks and so on. So, I mean, this text clearly is a ground refutation of all that.
So you think that this goes against his views?
Oh, well, clearly. I mean, here you have everything about the planets and so on, like, 1500 years before the Greeks arrived in India.
True. In fact, my intention was to say that even before Lagada, that is the Vedanga period, is a Maghadi epoch is there. So, it is a Maghadi epoch is there in this. Because their approach is to show the Shravishtadi epoch of Lagada is really not 1300 BC, but it is 500 BC is their eventual argument, what Pingree is giving. Because it is also true, the text in some places, the Yajusha Jyotisha looks or sounds little bit modern because Meena is there, reference to Meena is there. And some people take Shravishta as Dhanishta. And that Dhanishta identification as Delphini is based on Surya Siddhanta. And Surya Siddhanta gives everything in degrees, which is Siddhantic astronomy. So that position, how do I extend it to the past one, becomes a question. Whereas this doesn't suffer from any such things. Independently, it establishes that. That is what I wanted to show.
Okay.
So please write a commentary or review on the book. I would be happy. Yes, sir.
Sir, in one of the slides, you showed a series of questions, right? There are many questions, that were asked. One of the question is, Katham va chatushpat pakshinaha kita pipilikaha. How the quadrupeds, birds and insects and ants originated or, came about kind of thing. All these questions, will it not disprove the theory of evolution, whatever Darwin's is telling like amoeba to monkey to man kind of thing?
No, I don't think so. Just this question will not say that is wrong. It doesn't say that. It is a small book, as you will see.
No. What is the answer for this one? Chatushpadaha, Pakshinaha, how it
No. He simply says Pashuho Ajayata and kinds of thing. He doesn't exactly answer all of that.
But in some other place, I just, I don't remember. It is a combination of some, sun and on particular nakshatra, something got originated kind of thing.
No, I have my own doubts on that. That may be a philosophical way of telling things. But actual life form evolution is there in the Puranas. In which Manvantara Kurmavatara happened, in which Manvantara Matsyavatara. It is not exactly the Darwinian evolution.
Will it coincide with
No,
the
no,
Darwin
it
theory?
need not. See, the thing is this. Why do we compete with Darwin or somebody?
No, out of curiosity.
It's our, no, I'm telling, we have our own science. That science, it has some time concepts. And this is also a time concept because it goes from the Srishti. If you ask me, how did they know Srishti? We were there seeing that. It is a model, which I mentally think, even today, Big Bang and all that is only a theory. It is not the who saw Big Bang. So in the same way, this is an intellectual development.
Even as per common sense, okay, why this particular question also came? If everything has originated from amoeba to monkey to man, this question shouldn't have arisen.
That I don't know. That I cannot say. This doubt arises to all. Means there is a difference. You have to see that because you know Sanskrit very well. Need not say Kita is different. Pipilika is different. Chatushpat is different. There are different varieties of that. It also has something else. Viruda, how grass comes up, how the trees come up and all that. But this is mainly in astronomy, astral sciences. So about Prithvi, it is very less in this. So we have to see some other text. This text doesn't cover all of that. Agriculture has come up. So it is actually a slow development of time.
Anyway, thank you, sir. Very informative.
Thank you.
Very engaging session.
You talked about Devatas being cosmic forces, is how they described.
Which one?
Devatas as cosmic forces.
Huh.
I don't know if this may be outside the context of this, but do they say anything about what controls or drives? Is there any talk about does consciousness question ever come into this, or
it is not there. At least in this text, it is not there. It simply says the Devatas are there. The Devata Guna, which are supposed to be known, that is not in Mahasalilam, but in the Nakshatra Karma Guna chapter, which is there, which detailed and given in the appendix, what kind of work can be done under which nakshatra he lists. That is depending on the property of the Devata, he gives that list. It is there. But here they don't go into all those details. It's a very sharp.
It's just that these are cosmic forces, and
that's all. That's all. That's all.
Mount Meru is quoted so many times in Puranam, Ramayana, and all that. Whether it is a real physical entity or is just some conceptual thing.
It is a concept. It is a concept, a cosmic concept, so to say. So, see, the intellectual tradition in this country has developed along those lines. It is a concept that the concept has led to a lot of new things and developments. But that's all what I can say. And that would have happened in the Puranas, as you rightly said. The best Meru-centric astronomy is there in the Brahmanda Purana. Later Puranas, they give only stories. But in the Brahmanda Purana, it is said that how the things rotate around that, at what distance and all that. They have tried to give some theory there. It seems to be a theory which developed when the pole star was fixed, when Dhruva was there. Because Dhruva could be seen fixed by people. So they thought that there should be something which is connecting. It may be, as they say, it is a ray of light which may be connecting the two things. But with precision, as it changed, like in the later Maitrayani, Aranika and all that, they asked why Dhruva is also moving. So they knew about the movement of Dhruva, even in the Vedas, in the later Vedas, and hence they thought of other fixed points for measuring time or observing celestial. So they took up the solstitial points, because that is a very good fixed point, physically fixed, with reference to a tree or a hillock, the Dakshinayana point and the Uttarayana point. Then Meru was given up. But cosmically, it is still important in the tantras and in the other kinds of esoteric things. So that's perfectly fine. You have to come to the concept that Akasha is single. You can't come to that concept without these kind of things. The similar things are there, but you have to see this. In the ancient time, there were difference of opinion. In the different texts, there are different kinds of things are said. Broadly, they are same. The pattern is there, but there are differences. For example, in the Aitareya Brahmana, the Prajapati Dohitru Upakhyana is there. The Prajapati running behind his daughter. It's a cosmic legend, And then Rudra hitting, and then Saumya became Saumya in the Mrigashira Nakshatra. That is why for the Devata for Mrigashira Nakshatra is Soma.
Namaste. I wanted to talk about the mathematics or the Ganitam part of the Jyotish Shastra. So in Siddhantika text, as you said in the Siddhanta text, we have Ganita Pada, then we have the Gola Pada of Aryabhata. We have Siddhanta Shiromani, but before that he writes Leelavati. So of Bhaskaracharya. So in this text, do we have something like a Sankhya Nirvachanam or some kind of definition of numbers or the operations or anything little bit?
See, the definition of numbers is not there. Two important things there. If you read it, you will get about. Concept of zero-ness is there.
It's there. No, that's very
They don't call it shunyata. You know, the word shunya comes up only in the Yajus Samhita. But how did that concept come? That comes from Sannaya actually. I've discussed that in greater detail because even though initially it says that Chandrama Shodasha Kala, Shodasha Avashishyate. But then later on, that is true even in the Vedas, there is a Vaishwadeva Charu has to be given.
Yes.
The Vaishwadeva Charu is the Saptadasha Kalam. It is the 17th Kala. From that, it was Nirvapayate. It is removed. What was removed? This remaining light on moon was removed. As the 17th Kala was removed. And that is Sannaya. That is why they have not come up to the exact concept of a number like zero. A quantification of zero. No, it is not there. But all the other numbers are assumed.
Yes.
They have the fractions. Ardha is there.
Yes.
Amsha is there. 1/4. Pada is there. And the number of stars are given to be Dashakoti Sahasra. 10 to the power 11. And you can't simply ignore that because there is a 28 is there. There is a 27 is there. He says some people say there are 28 stars are the daughters of Daksha, but some people say only 27. And they are made out of 86. Whereas if you remove Abhijit, it becomes only 83. So that 86 is also given. So they knew about numbers. And the ayana is given. The comparison of 10 ayanas to 134. That is a very great observation. It is not said as 5 years, but each year is 366 aharganai which is given.
Yes.
So you have to imagine those things, they are multiplied and get that.
So even
it is already quite a bit of thinking is there. But the idea has developed. Further mathematical ideas of continuity. The difficulty seems to be between discreteness and continuity. Whether this is Kala and Akala, I will not go into that, it becomes a big lecture.
Yeah, Namaste. My question is, what is the oldest date coming from the...
What is the?
Oldest date coming from this text?
Oldest date?
Earliest.
Oh, coming from, it is 1800 BC.
1800, okay.
That is the 1800 BC. But if you take Rohini is the Prathama Nakshatra, even though the discussion is not in very great detail, it would be before that. That's about 2300 BC or something like that.
And you also mentioned about the change of the Dhruva. So some people have considered it as a Tuban Nakshatra, Tuban star, and later on the Polaris. So have you given any date for the older Dhruva and the younger Dhruva?
No, that I have worked in some other papers.
Okay.
Dhruva being fixed, I have given that 2850 BC.
Oldest one.
Precise, because the Shishumara with 14 nakshatras, the tile was the Dhruva. That's called Abhaya Dhruva. The Brahmanda Purana, the 14 stars are also given.
Okay.
And even Al-Biruni thinks, says even in the 11th century, people think that their pole star is in Shishumara, the tile of Shishumara. So it was a religious feeling that had come. Even Shankaracharya mentions that in Nakshatra Namir Nakshatri Vyakhyana, it is the Taitiri Aranyaka, Vishnur Hridayam, Dhruvaha Puche Vyavastitaha, he says. So which time Dhruva was fixed was the question. That you can work out easily, 2850. Professor Srinivas in his foreword has referred to that.
One last question is 1800 BC is the oldest date coming out of the Vedanga Jyotisha. Then there should be some earlier, it build up towards that 1800 BC, right? Maybe there should be some 200 years of experience, minimum 200 years of experience.
True. Certainly. So this, in fact, goes into the equinoctial full moon phenomenon. I have a publication on that. You have to read that. I've not covered all of that because just that is also the Maghadi period. So there was a Maghadi epoch in this country, and Maghadi epoch is when the Varsha Rutu started. And even today we use the word Abda, water giver, Varsha, as the name for a year itself. So when the rain started in the most ancient period, they started the new year. New year may not be a celebration as we do today, but it was a year beginning. That is why they call the Varsha and Varsha Rutu. So Varsha star also rain as well as a year time. Both meaning Sanskrit uses that. So there is a definite Maghadi here. So in the three texts, a Maitrayani Aranyaka, Brahmanda Purana, a little bit of Vishnu Purana, and this text is the Maghadi epoch. So it helps the Rigvedic dating to some extent.